You're on the side.
Sorry. You don't want me to start again, do you? For YouTube? No. Excellent. Right. Can I ask that you use the microphones by pressing the button on the right-hand side. Once you have finished speaking, please ensure that this is turned off. We go straight to introductions. My name is Councillor Matthew Lynch, as you are all aware, and I am the Chair of the Licensing and Public Safety Committee. Can I ask the members to introduce themselves?
Councillor Michelle Lamary now.
Councillor Collins.
Thank you. Nathan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, good evening. My name is Nathan Halson. I'm the licensing team leader for Chorley Council.
And Alex?
Alex Jackson, solicitor.
And Coral?
Yeah, Coral Asper, Democratic and Member Services Officer.
And can I ask the applicant who is representing Chorley Borough Council?
My name's Andrew Daniels. I'm the Shared Service Lead for Communications and Visitor Economy and be speaking on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you. There are no other persons in attendance. Therefore, we go to the agenda. Apologies. Declarations of interest. If a member has a pecuniary interest, they must withdraw from the meeting. Normally, you should leave the room before the business starts to be discussed. You do, however, have the same right to speak as a member of the public and may remain in the room to enable you to exercise that right and then leave immediately. In either case, you must not seek to improperly influence a decision on the matter. Do we have any declarations of interest? No. Item 2, procedure. The hearing will proceed as follows. The committee will first decide whether to allow persons specified on the Regulation 8 notice permission to speak. Then our licensing officer will outline the application and any relevant representations. Questions to the licensing officer will be permitted from committee members, the applicant, representative or other persons. The applicant representative will then be invited to put forward any information in support of their application. Again, questions to the applicant or representative will be permitted from committee members and other persons. The committee will then receive representations from other persons, in this case, Mr. Trafford. Questions to Mr. Trafford will be permitted from members of the subcommittee and the applicant or their representative. I will then invite the other persons and the applicant or representative to sum up in turn if they wish. The public and any other persons or officers who are not directly supporting the committee will be excluded from the meeting at this point as we enter deliberations, and the YouTube stream will end. Following deliberations, we will request that the licence holder re-enter the meeting so that I can deliver our decision. The licence holder and other persons will be issued with a detailed notice of decision within 5 working days of this hearing. So we go to item 3 on the agenda, determination of application for a premises licence for Astley Park, Park Road, Chorley. The committee need to first consider whether to allow persons specified on the Regulation 8 notice permission to speak. Nathan, have we had any requests?
Thank you, Chair. No requests have been received. We haven't actually received a Regulation 8 notice from Mr. Trafford, so it's unclear whether or not he intends to attend the hearing. It appears not. That being said, he has submitted a relevant representation, and so that's a relevant factor for the committee to consider. It's just a question of how much weight you apply to it.
So just to confirm that you've not received any... Right.
That's correct, yeah.
So as there are none, we do not need to go for a proposer or a seconder to, as it's right, in that case, we'll go at that. Going to item 2 of the procedure, can I ask our licensing officers to outline the application and include any relevant representations?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, as you set out, this is a report regarding an application for a premises licence in respect of Astley Park on Park Road in Chorley. I'm going to go through the report on agenda page 5. The reason this matter has been referred to the committee is to advise members that an application has been made to which relevant representations have been received. It's further to request that members determine the application in accordance with the provisions of the Licensing Act 2003. I'll move straight to paragraph 8 of the report, which is on agenda page 6. On the 7th of June, an application for a premises licence was received. This was submitted by Chris Sinnott, Deputy Chief Executive of Chorley Council for and on behalf of the Borough Council, and there's a copy of that application appended in Appendix 1. The application seeks to authorise the following licensable activities, and at paragraph 9 you'll see there's a table which summarises those activities which are being applied for. Section 18 of the application itself sets out the steps that the applicant intends to take to promote the licensing objectives, and if the licence were to be granted, those steps would form part of the operating schedule and would be conditions of the premises licence. The application itself seeks to license the whole area of the park, which is quite an extensive area incorporating a lake, tennis courts and a bowling green, a large playing area and a large playing and wooded area. And there's a plan which was submitted as part of the application, appended in Appendix 2. The application was advertised in accordance with the regulations, and then a notice was displayed across the premises for the whole 28-day consultation period, and a notice was posted in a local newspaper, and the application posted or published on the council's website. Then, during this consultation period, a representation was received from a member of the public regarding the grant of the application undermining a licensing objective. At paragraph 14, on the 28th of June 2022, representation was received from Mr Trafford of Deerfold, Astley Village, Chorley, and this representation relates to the prevention of public nuisance objective. You'll find that representation, the relevant parts of it are appended at Appendix 3 to this report. Although Mr Trafford isn't in attendance, as I sort of suggested to the chair earlier, the representation is relevant, and so when coming to your decision, members, it is a relevant consideration. You should decide what weight you should apply to the representation. Conclusions then at paragraph 18, the decision should be based on the individual merits of the application and the representation. In accordance with the regulations, a decision must be taken within the period of 5 working days, beginning with the day or the last day on which the hearing is held. And in accordance with section 18, the authority must, having regard to the representations which have been made, take such steps as mentioned below, if any, as it considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives. And those steps are to grant the licence subject to the conditions offered in the operating schedule, modified in any way as the authority considers appropriate, and the mandatory licensing conditions, to exclude any licensable activity from the licence, to refuse to specify a person in the licence as the designated premises supervisor, or to reject the application in its entirety. In summary then, the subcommittee is requested to determine the application. Unless there's any questions, Chair, that's the report.
Thank you. Questions? Nothing? Right, Nathan, obviously this is for a licence to the whole park. I assume that either the events previously have either been a reduced area or that they've been done under temporary event notices. Is that correct?
Yes, Chair, that's correct. There is an existing premises licence for the park. There's a few technical reasons why that licence isn't really suitable any longer, and I understand the reason for this application. as you say, events in the park have been, carried on for a number of years, and the way those events have been authorised in the past is using temporary event notices. Yes.
Okay, so there's been an existing licence previously. That was held also by an individual for Chorley Council, yes?
Yes, that's correct, yeah.
So, bearing in mind that there's been a previous application, has there been any incident concern for previous events, has there been any nuisance that would be in line with concerns raised by Mr. Trafford?
No, but obviously this is a new licence application, and so each case should be considered on the merits of the individual application. It depends on how those activities are carried out. So what has gone on in the past doesn't necessarily lead on to what may happen under this new licence.
Right. Okay. Anything? No? Okay. Andrew, any questions for Nathan?
No questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Therefore, can I ask you, Andrew, to put forward your comments?
Yes, thank you, Chair. As has been alluded to earlier in the meeting, this application is in effect to replace an existing premises licence for the park. So a licence of this nature already exists. But we don't think it's necessarily fit for purpose. It was felt a new application was the best way to address this. This is in part because the area covered does not fit with our events programme that has developed over time since the existing licence was applied for, and areas such as the walled garden have been remodelled as well, so the area that's covered we need to be slightly different. Essentially what we're trying to do with this new application is to regularise the activity that already takes place and make our planning and running of the events more efficient. At the moment, we do need to apply for varying numbers of temporary event notices depending on the event, and this can be restrictive for the types of events we host, such as the flower show. We've also invested significantly in Astley Hall, and as part of that is to develop the wedding offer, which is also restricted in part by the fact that we would have to apply for temporary event notice for some of the activity, depending upon the nature of the activity. So I note the objection to the licence application, and I just want to reassure residents that this is, as I said, about regularising the process of how we run our events. We're always mindful of the impact on neighbouring properties, and it is that balance between hosting events that have a real positive impact on the local economy, while ensuring our residents living in the vicinity of Astley Park do not suffer from public nuisance. So myself and the team have had responsibility for running the council events in the park for a number of years, and the feedback we get is overwhelmingly positive. And where we have had cause for residents to contact us, we've tried to act on these concerns and adapt our events based on the feedback we receive. So I guess in summary, this is not a licence to change in any great way the types of and nature of events that we put on in the park. It's just about formalising the process and making it better for us in terms of organising them. We are well aware of our responsibilities as a local authority, and the application outlines how we would support the licensing objectives. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Trafford has raised some concerns. I'm conscious that on agenda page 25, as part of the application, there are a list of measures that you will be undertaking. I'm just conscious that obviously we are streaming on YouTube, and if Mr. Trafford is watching, is there anything you would like to say that would give assurances to Mr. Trafford and other residents who may feel the same way but have yet to comment?
Yes, no problem, Chair. I think from the letter that was received, I think I picked out sort of two themes in that. One was around, I suppose, excessive drinking and encouraging, drunken activity in the park. Again, from my perspective, the events that we're looking to host in the park are they're no different than the ones that currently exist in the current programme of activities that take place. So this is about events that people may want to have a drink at, rather than an event that the sole purpose of it is to sell alcohol. And again, I think from previous events that we've run, I'm not aware of any complaints regarding drunken nuisance where people have got themselves drunk and then are causing a public nuisance as they've left the park. And as some of the measures that are included in the application, we'll always encourage people to respect our neighbours. We have all our events are stewarded appropriately, and we have security trained staff as well to help deal with that. And obviously we go through a thorough planning process when organising the events. I think the other element of the letter that was received was relating to the noise and the disturbance for people later in the evening, I think from sort of 8-9 o'clock onwards, and obviously this application is through till 11 o'clock in the evening. The reason for the timings is just for that flexibility, really. There may be a small number of events throughout the year that do run until later in the evening. Examples of that, I guess, would be things like Astley Illuminated, which is hosted in November time. And again, that event is very much about people coming to enjoy the hall and that being lit up. It's not about creating a lot of noise and people drinking. And then we also have a number of music events in the summer which tie in with a flower show, which is coming up in a couple of weeks, and they run through to sort of 11 o'clock at night. But again, they're events away from the residential areas, particularly the ones in Astley Village in Deerfold, and we're always mindful of when we work with the people on that, of where we position the staging and the sound levels. So I guess it's the reassurance that any events that will run later into the evening will be very few and far between, and we're very mindful of the impact that can have on local residents. And I guess we've already got provisions through things like temporary event notices where we can run events in line with that as well. So we're not, like I said, this is not about doing anything different. We're trying to regularise what we do, and like I say, we always have the impact of the residents in mind whenever we're organising any of our events. It's really important to us that people enjoy them, and I appreciate there may be it might not be for everyone, but it's important to have that balance as well, particularly for a public park of that nature. You may expect on the odd occasion there will be things going on into the evening.
Thank you. Questions? No questions? Just a quick one, Andrew. Obviously, this is licensed, and you've mentioned council events. Am I right to presume that the license that will be in place, should it be granted, will only be for council events, and any other events that take place would then be subject to temporary event notices from third parties?
I guess it would depend a little bit. The majority of events that it's hard, I guess, to predict into the future about what may or may not come about. Like I said, the events that we're looking to organise in the park is pretty much the events programme that remains as it is. The only one that we currently do, which we perhaps look to run under this premises licence, is the Chorefest event, which is on the weekend prior to the flower show, which is a third-party event. But that is very much one. We work with them on that, and they're very conscious of the events that they're putting on, the impact it can have on the local area. Like I say, it would depend. We don't know what people are going to come to us in the future with requests to put on events in the park. We'd have to deal with that at the time. But like I say, for the purposes of this application, it's pretty much based on the events that we're already running there. We'd have to take a view on that at the time. Whether we would do those through temporary event notices or include them as part of this licence. I suppose the other thing to factor in, as a local authority, we'd have to be very mindful if we were allowing a third-party event to run on a licence that is the council's licence in effect. So that would be taken into consideration as well, as ultimately, it's the council that's the licence holder for it.
Because obviously you will be aware that there's a certain children's hospice, they events on there. I just wondered whether it's something you're looking to perhaps offer as a service, which would, you know, obviously have benefits towards the council in possible revenue streams, that kind of thing. So, again, I think you've answered the question. You'll take it as offers. Right. Okie dokie. Right. Any questions from you, Nathan?
No, Chair, thank you.
You've not got a hidden one, have you, Alex? No? Good. Nobody from responsible authorities. Right, in that case, time to sum up, Andrew.
Thanks, Chair. I mean, I've not really got anything to say over and above what I've already covered in what I said earlier on, really, and this is very much about just regularising what we do and making the planning and organisation of the events more efficient, and I've got nothing to add beyond that.
Thank you. Now the hearing has finished, please can I ask officers, the applicant and anybody else, which is nobody else, to leave the meeting whilst we enter deliberations. The stream to YouTube will also end after we have finished. Deliberating officers will ask you to re-enter to hear the decision should you wish. Are you off, Andrew? Are you? Right. Thank you very much for attending. And please, can we confirm that the YouTube stream's ended while Thank you very much. After careful consideration, members have resolved to grant the application for the following reasons. There were no representations from responsible authorities. There have been licensable events held within Astley Park over the years, but without any concern. Members did not attach much weight to the representation from the member of the public regarding noise in nearby residential properties, since no one from those dwellings had made representations themselves. Members did not attach much weight to the representation from the member of the public regarding the risk of nuisance to residents in sheltered accommodation. There had been no representation from those residents or relatives or carers on their behalf or from the management of the sheltered accommodation. The person who submitted a relevant representation did not attend the subcommittee to amplify his representation, so there was nothing presented at subcommittee in addition to what was in the letter to persuade members that the grant would not promote the licensing objectives. That's the decision of the committee. Can I thank everybody for their attendance? Confirm YouTube stream has ended. As I've just been corrected, a decision notice will be handed out within 5 days. Thank you very much, Coral. And yes, there is a right of appeal. Although I'm not quite sure Andrew will appeal a decision that's in his favour.
Any person aggrieved.
Or any person aggrieved. Thank you. I'll ask Coral to put that on the script next time. Thank you. Have a lovely evening.